Hey, everybody, this is Mitch Silverstein, Chapter Manager for Surfrider Foundation, San Diego County, coming to you live from the metaverse, or whatever we're calling it these days. Super stoked to have a little annual recap of our accomplishments this year, and it's going to be great. We are going to try to keep this pretty quick to about an hour. So without further ado, let me get into my presentation mode. Wait, that's me too big. As you can see, we're technical gurus all the way here. Boom. So I guess I should say, in case this is your first time ever coming to any Surfrider thing ever, our mission is the protection and enjoyment of our ocean waves and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. And Surfrider has a great, powerful, and a great activist network, not only here in San Diego County, but all over the country as well. And to start the meeting off, I just want to show you, everyone watching, kind of our Surfrider Coastal Victory Command Center, as I like to call it. You can kind of see a map of the country, and in each region of the country, how many coastal victories Surfrider Foundation activists have achieved. Now, a coastal victory is a decision made in favor of the coastal and ocean environment that results in a positive conservation outcome, improves coastal access, or both. So things like a bag ban, or maybe a beach restoration, or a new beach access, things like that, we count those as victories. And Surfrider's been counting those coastal victories since 2006. And since we've been counting them, we've had 767 coastal victories as an organization nationally. And then if you see on the map, if you look at California, kind of the most active state, really, well, Hawaii too, but we've got the most victories in California. And within all the chapters, I'm very proud of our activists here in San Diego, because we've got around 50 of those 260 California victories are from here in San Diego, meaning our chapter is just really a force to be reckoned with when it comes to protecting our coast. And then off to the right here, you can just see kind of this year, 2021, we've had 7 total victories. And I've got it broken down by kind of what initiative it is, whether it's plastic pollution or beach access or clean water, et cetera. And at any given moment, or right now, we actually have 19 active campaigns, which we hope in the next year or maybe the next will all turn into victories. So I'm not going to go over all those victories right now. That's what our staff, other staff, and volunteer committee leads are here tonight to do, to give all of you a recap of the things that we've accomplished this year. But before we get started, I've got one more slide, one more plug. Going to bring in our executive committee chair, Alex Farron. What up, Alex?
Hey, everyone.
So we have, at the end of the year, we do obviously a lot of end of year fundraising, and we also do our end of year membership drive. Our membership is kind of the way that we show how powerful we are and what our support looks like. There's over 50,000 Surfrider members in the country. And here in San Diego, we've got about 2,500 active members. Now, membership starts at only $25 a year, which reminds me to put on my little ticker. $25 a year. And then there's also an option to do a $60 membership, which gets you this cool t-shirt that this very handsome model is modeling for us right now. So you've got a couple options in terms of membership. And, 2,500 members is actually more members than any other Surfrider chapter has. But at the same time, when I think about how many people love our coast and support the work we do here in San Diego County, which is millions of people, I really think that we could have a stronger membership. And I really want to encourage everyone to be part of that. And when I do the math in my head, our chapter budget is anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 a year. That's our operating budget to fund our staff, our programs, everything. And if we had 5,000 paying members, that would pretty much cover our current budget. 5,000, 50,000? Okay, bad math, but not 5,000. We would need more. We would need like 50,000. Sorry, 50,000. But that would cover our budget, and that would make it so we'd be very independent from any of the corporate support that we also kind of need to vie for. Not that it affects us. Alex, I'm going to let you say a few things.
Thank you, Mitch. Yeah, so membership's obviously so important. Those donor dollars are so important to our mission. And I'm Alex Farron. I am the chair of our executive committee. For anyone who doesn't know, our executive committee is kind of a board of directors who oversee what's going on with those donor dollars. So we kind of monitor staff time, volunteer time, donator dollars to make sure that everything that we're working on is in the direct mission of Surfrider, right? To protect and enjoy our ocean, waves, and beaches for all people. So right now, until Friday the 17th, we are holding our annual EC Executive Committee election. So we have, I believe, six or seven applicants who all have bios and bids for the Executive Committee to hopefully find a seat on our board. So if you're a Surfrider member, you will have gotten an email to please join in on the voting. If you are not a member yet, you can become a member, and Mitch will send you another email or two, I think, before the voting is over. And if you're a member and you can't see that email, you can ask Mitch. It's really important to have our community here really help drive what we're doing. It's because it's all for all of us, right? So that's what's going on right now in the executive committee world. Mitch, I'll throw it back to you.
Thanks for the PSA, Alex. That's another benefit of being a member is you get to vote for your chapter leaders. Volunteer-led, keeps us honest, right? All right, so without further ado, let's get into the actual impacts we've had this year, committee by committee. I'm gonna switch out Alex, we'll see in a little bit, and bring on, it's actually a great pleasure to introduce, really for the first time, our new full-time Clean Border Water Now campaign manager, Trisha Mejia. It's all yours, Trisha. Just let me know when you want to go to the next slide.
Hi, my name is Trisha Mejia. I'm the new Clean Border Water Now manager. I'm pleased to be with Surfrider and to be doing good work. Go ahead to the next slide. So the mission of Clean Border Water Now is to address and eliminate the sewage, trash, sediment, and chemical waste that plagues our waves, oceans, waves, and beaches in the border region. So this is a decades-long issue, so it's not just something that's happened overnight. In 2017, we had a massive spill of over 140 million gallons of sewage that impacted the beaches in South County. And the pollution still affects our southernmost beaches in San Diego County, with some closed more than 215 days a year. So this campaign is focused on the South Bay. We're working alongside the border. We have a lot of advocacy to elected officials every year. We have several letter writing campaigns and meetings. We do a lot of education and public outreach, school outreach in the South Bay, letting people know about this issue and what they can do to participate in making change. We've had some impact. A lot of our campaigns have resulted in thousands of letters of support for BWIP and other advocacy efforts. So that's thank you to members out there who are supporting our campaign. We're able to take those letters to Washington and advocate for solutions in the Tijuana River Valley. We've advocated and secured every year additional BWIP funding, so that's good. We've lobbied and secured 300 million USMCA funds for new infrastructure along the border, and that's a big win. And we're currently pursuing active lawsuit against IBWC, so we're still fighting the fight. Next slide. Right now, I just wanted to let you know about what we're currently got going on. We're working on a campaign to support the Border Water Quality Restoration and Protection Act. This would designate the EPA as the lead agency to address border pollution along the U.S.-Mexico border and improve the water quality in the Tijuana River Valley. It would also codify the existing border water infrastructure program, the BWIP program, that we're always advocating for funding for each and every year, so to make that program stronger. So if you haven't supported us already, please visit our campaign page for a link to our action alert. Next slide. Finally, I just want to talk about what is the most exciting news coming out of the border region is the USMCA project. We're happy that the EPA has selected alternative I-2, which is the most comprehensive solution to battle the border sewage issue. We consider this a win. We've advocated for this alternative. We're glad they're moving forward with it in the environmental review. There is some room to advocate. This project is slated to cost $625 million. Through the USMCA project, we've only have $300 million in funding secured. We're looking at different avenues like additional BWIP funds to close some of this gap. Other local, state, and federal strategies, maybe new legislation. This is a long-term process. It's going to be implemented in phases. So here at Surfrider, we're here for the long haul. We want to make sure that this project gets built in its entirety. Because if it is, it will reduce transboundary flow during the summer months by 95% and during the winter months by 76%. So that is some significant gains. So we look forward to, in the future, having you come to some of our committee meetings and supporting our Clean Border Water Now campaign. Is there any questions? Mitch?
Hey, no, I don't see any. I asked people to put questions in the comments, and if they do, we'll either answer in the comments or at the end. I know you've got to run, Trisha. You've got another commitment, so we'll do our best. Thanks so much for the updates. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Next, I'm going to bring in the one, the only, if I can find her, Vicki Conlin, live from Florida, our ocean-friendly restaurants lead. Hey, Vicki.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Mitch.
Sure thing. Take it away.
All righty. Have you ever dined at a restaurant that has an amazing ocean view, really good food, to only be disappointed when your salsa and your salad dressing come out in those single-use plastic ramekins? Your margarita comes out in a single-use plastic cup with a plastic straw. I've had that experience a lot lately, especially since COVID. The Ocean Friendly Restaurant Program, also known as OFR, helps address this problem by increasing environmental awareness in order to change behavior and reduce waste, one customer, one restaurant at a time. And you can see here in our pictures, these are 4 of our many ocean-friendly restaurants here in San Diego County. Viewpoint Brewing in Del Mar and Pacific Catch in La Jolla are 2 of our newer OFRs. Next slide, please. So as you can imagine, OFR faced some big challenges in 2021 due to COVID. During the mandatory closures for restaurants, we had a no contact policy with our OFRs. That was the last thing they needed is more emails and phone calls and visits from us at Surfrider. They just wanted to deal with the challenges of COVID. And then once restaurants reopened, they were unable to find enough employees, which they're still experiencing. And so I actually had discussions with various owners that I have more of a relationship with, and they were on the floor, bussing tables, doing dishes because they couldn't find enough help. So again, we didn't want to bother them during these times. And then we found in August, September, when we did start reaching out to them, a lot of the contact information was outdated because there's been such a turnover of management because of COVID and everybody moving around. Another challenge we had is our volunteer retention. And I've talked to other nonprofits about this problem. And, you know, a lot of people changed careers during COVID and were seeking new careers. And they were moving out of state. And then of course, Zoom doesn't help because you really lose that face-to-face personal connection with your volunteers. Next slide, please. So during the OFR slowdown, we really tried to stay active and moving forward, and we were able to accomplish a fair bit. National and local chapters used the slow time to update the OFR program by changing a few of the criteria, which I'll show you in a minute, and moving the program from a fee-based program to a donation-based program. Really trying to help restaurants out, not requiring that membership. And so far, we've only renewed about 25% of our existing OFRs with the updated criteria. We call it OFR 2.0, but we still have a long way to go. But we're slowly, surely making progress to get all of those OFRs renewed with the new program. National has extended their membership to April of 2022. So we're giving restaurants plenty of time to get on board. One of our biggest accomplishments was the development of the Ocean Friendly To Go program. And that's here in San Diego County. A few other chapters have adopted it as well. I'll talk about that in just a minute as well. And then we continue to try to promote our OFRs through social media, our websites. Edible San Diego Winter Magazine did a full page article on ocean friendly restaurants. I think that's out as of now. So that was kind of exciting. And Brenna and Mitch are doing a great job with our OFR monthly roundup that spotlights our OFRs. And thanks to Mitch, our newest OFR, Pacific Catch, and Surfrider folks that attended the event, the special event, we were able to raise over $7,000 for Surfrider. Mitch, did I get that number right? Was it 7,000 plus?
You're right.
Okay. Great job, by the way. Next slide, please. Okay. So here is the new criteria. So the ones highlighted in red are the actual 2 additional new criteria. And you can see that number 5 really tries to help support folks that are trying to pass ordinances in cities across the country. And so those are the new criteria that we call OFR 2.0. Next slide. And then here is the Ocean Friendly To Go program that I was talking about just a minute ago. This is an amazing program that was developed by a group of dedicated OFR volunteers, and it's such a simple program and a safe program. And we just need to figure out how to start a movement to change diner and restaurant attitudes and behavior towards takeout. It's basically a program where you order your takeout as if you were dining in the restaurant. So the kitchen staff plate it on reusable dinnerware as if you were dining there. And when you come in, they know that you have an Ocean Friendly To Go order, and they'll plate it on reusable dinnerware. You transfer it at a transfer station into your own to-go container that you've brought from home. And the restaurant never touches your container. So it's only you touching your food in your container once it's brought out to you. So, you know, if you're interested in helping out with this program, we really need the help. We need fresh ideas on how to get the word out about this program, because that's where we're having the most difficulties, is really starting a movement with the Ocean Friendly To Go program. All right, next slide. And you know, moving forward in 2022, I would love to see us have a core group of volunteers for OFR that want to do compliance checks and reach out to restaurants and do some policy work and just help us brainstorm and come up with some new ideas. We need some fresh ideas to move forward. And since my amazing co-lead, Kellen Timmerman, had to leave us, I am searching for a new OFR co-lead. So if anybody's interested, please reach out to me. And 2 heads really are better than one. It's it works so much better to bounce ideas off of other people. We want to continue to work with business associations to register new OFRs, get all of those existing OFRs on board with 2.0. And yeah, really, I would like to see OFR get more engaged, the civil engagement to help support legislation, especially with all the legislation that RAP, San Diego chapter RAP program is doing right now. So we can always use help with that. And next slide. And finally, if you're dining out with friends and family this holiday season, make it even more meaningful by supporting one of our ocean-friendly restaurants that have actually registered with the new OFR 2.0 program, which means they're meeting those new criteria that we have added. All righty, and final slide, please. So we have a great website. So just go to this website /OFR. It's got lots of great information. It lists all of the ocean-friendly restaurants. And if you have any questions or would like to volunteer with OFR, please contact me anytime. And we will be having an ocean-friendly restaurant. An ocean-friendly restaurant meeting in January, date to be announced. So look for that. And it really is going to be a brainstorming session to come up with some new ideas. That's all I've got. Thank you, Mitch.
My pleasure. And thank you on behalf of all of our supporters and this entire chapter, Vicki, for holding it down during really hard, difficult years, especially for a restaurant sustainability program. You're doing great. Really appreciate you. And I hope a lot of viewers tonight can check out the January meeting.
Thanks, Mitch.
Farewell. All right. Next up, we are going to move. We're kind of bouncing around tonight to keep things interesting. We're going to move on to our Blue Water Task Force. And what is our Blue Water Task Force, you might ask? Let's hear from Elijah.
Hello, my name is Elijah Garcia, and I am one of the co-leads for the Blue Water Task Force. And today I'm going to be walking you through some of our 2021 accomplishments. First, I'm going to give you a little brief introduction about what the Blue Water Task Force is. Our program advocates for the importance of water quality and stresses its connection to public health through engaging in community science. We focus on identifying problems or issues with beach and coastal water pollution and we're raising these issues to the public and helping engage with them, as well as working collaboratively with stakeholders to find and implement solutions, more upstream solutions to limit that pollution. A lot of what we do is under our WEEP model, which is water quality monitoring, which is the bulk of what we do, as well as education, activation, and policy, where we try to educate the public not only through the science that they're doing, but also with more policy issues and ultimately activating them to work with other stakeholders to find and implement solutions through policy. So without further ado, our 2021 accomplishments, like I said a little bit ago, a bulk of what we do is water quality monitoring. And so we were able to collect over 500 samples. This is done almost every Thursday, rain or shine. Our wonderful volunteers are always out there. And this is done at 12 sites throughout San Diego County. A lot was going on in our North County area, where we added 3 additional sites, as well as training 3 new North County samplers and 3 new lab techs to help out with the basic lab maintenance. We also had a wonderful volunteer go on to bigger and better things, and 2 new volunteers, amazing volunteers, really stepped up and helped lead that as well. And everyone in North County, as well as everyone in the program, was pretty helpful with keeping the consistent sampling going. We also were able to partner with Clean Border Water Now, one of the other programs with the San Diego Surfrider chapter, and completing a 4-week Tijuana River Valley water quality study. So a little bit about the averages thus far throughout the year. We're looking for Enterococcus, which is a fecal indicator bacteria. one of the most common Enterococcus strains is going to be E. coli, and fecal indicator bacteria is kind of what the name implies, that if you find this bacteria, there's probably with a high likelihood that there's also poop in the water, which is meaning there's a lot of other harmful stuff. So on the y-axis, we have our sites, and they're going to have their averages both in dry and wet weather. So wet weather being if there's a recent rain event near the time of sampling, and dry is there's no rain. And on the x-axis, we're going to have the most probable number of bacteria or MPN found in 100 mils of water. So that's going to be about, let's see the blur, there we go. This is about that much. You can see the little water level. So a little bit, not that much of water. And so for the most part, we can see that a lot of our sites, whether rain or shine, their average is going to be below our sort of low bacteria threshold, which is around 35 MPN. And that's going to be marked with the dashed line. But we also do have some problematic sites where we had OB Dog Beach and Campland by the Bay average at or above our high bacteria threshold, which is the dash line near 105 MPN. And this is also the county's advisory standard. So we see that during wet weather, OB Dog Beach actually averages above the advisory standard, which is not good at all. Another way to look at our data is that we've broken it down into our site threshold counts. Low bacteria, meaning it's going to be less than 305, so it's going to, or 335. So the first dash line in between the two dash lines, that's kind of medium bacteria, and then anything above the right dash line, that's going to be high bacteria, and above actually the county standards of advisory standards. So for most part, we see that a lot of our sites are actually green with low bacteria, so good to go. Have fun at the beach, but we do have some other sites that more than a quarter of the time are actually at least in medium levels. So that's going to be Campland and OB Dog Beach again, as well as OB Pier. Some other additional projects that our wonderful volunteers were able to undertake was partnering with Farm Labs to complete a 6-month heavy metals and sediment project up in North County, as well as we were able to host 2 educational speakers from Rewild Mission Bay, as well as the Department of Environmental Health and Quality. Some of our volunteers also participated in a virtual Coastal Recreation Hill Day and presented at a National Water Quality Monitoring Council conference. One of the cool things about Blue Water Task Force is we like to give back to our wonderful volunteers. So here's a cool shirt that our volunteers designed and are wearing. Sorry, the blur is kind of terrible. But one cool thing about volunteering with us, we'll give you a shirt if you help sample us or help us out. And then in our picture that we're showing, we also were able to host our annual volunteer appreciation event, which is something we like to do every year, but sometimes the world has other plans. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to our accomplishments, and have a great rest of your chapter meeting.
All right. Thanks, Elijah. That was pre-recorded. That's why it might have looked a little different, but pretty cool. Now it's a pleasure to bring in one of our longtime Beach Preservation Committee leads, Kristen Brenner. Hey, Kristen.
Hello.
Hey, all right. So I'm going to let you take it away. Thanks so much for being here.
You can go ahead to the next slide. So the Beach Preservation Committee is one of the strongest voices in San Diego to protect our coastline and preserve beach access. We work to restore our coastline to its natural unarmored state. And by fighting bad coastal development and the privatization of our beaches. And generally, we advocate for smart planning for climate change. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to kind of walk from north to south in San Diego County and describe some of the work that we've done this year, starting in Oceanside. Many people might know that Oceanside's beaches are narrowing due to a combination of factors, including the fact that the city's coastal boundary has been cited an unsafe area. There's just a massive amount of development right up on the coastline itself. One of the things that we have been fighting in Oceanside is the city's proposed plan to build a field of groins. Groins are long fingers of concrete that stretch perpendicular to the coast and which do build up sand, but they build up sand by blocking its natural movement up and down the coast. They don't create sand, they actually stop sand from moving. And so in San Diego County, where sand generally moves from north to south along the shore, this means that if Oceanside starts trapping sand, that all of us south of them are going to have less sand coming to our beaches. So we are continuing to fight the city on that proposal. We've also been trying to hold the city accountable. They have been illegally exempting a lot of residents where they should be getting coastal development permits. They've basically been telling them just go ahead and do the work that you want along the coastline. So we had some work that we've been doing with them, and we're currently, they're kind of in arbitration with the Coastal Commission to resolve that issue. Next slide. Moving on to Carlsbad. Some of the things we're working on there is working on preserving some coastal space in Ponto to allow the natural migration of the coastline inland that we'll see from climate change. The Ponto property in particular is one of the last open undeveloped parcels of land in Carlsbad and probably actually in most of North County. So this is rare. So we're hoping that the city can work with the owners to preserve that land as open space. And that would be important because there's a lot of critical public infrastructure around there that people use and love, including the Carlsbad State Beach Campground, South Ponto Beach, and the Bataquitos Lagoon. If their Ponto is preserved as an open space park, potentially with sea level rise, when the campground is essentially destroyed by sea level rise, that you could actually relocate the campground to that site. So those are some things that we're working on in Carlsbad. Next slide, please. So moving south to Encinitas, there's a bunch of stuff we've been working on in Encinitas. One of the things that we've actually been working on for almost 20 years in Encinitas, it's kind of unbelievable that this hasn't yet been resolved, is the threatened beach access at Beacons. I don't know if you've ever parked at the parking lot at the top of Beacons. It's actually pretty, it's a very unsafe parking lot. It's pretty much imminently going to collapse next time there's some kind of event that causes the bluff to slide down. When that parking lot comes down, it's also going to take the coastal trail down with it. We have been trying for 20 years to make this a safer situation. And most recently, a couple years ago, they proposed a staircase and reconfiguring the parking lot. But due to some unfortunate controversy in the local community, that didn't work out. So right now, the city is looking to do vegetation, which really is not going to be sufficient to shore that up. So we're continuing to push the city to come up with a more long-term solution. And then something that's kind of straddling both Encinitas and Solana Beach is this giant Army Corps of Engineer sand replenishment project. And this is coming up. It's going to start in the next couple of years. And what we have done with this project this year was advocate for much better surf monitoring. So making sure that if the sand is placed on the beach, placed on the beaches in a way that impacts the surf negatively, we'll have really robust monitoring to understand what those impacts are. So because of our advocacy, they vastly increased the number of places they were going to be doing the beach monitoring. So they're going to be looking at 18 different places, and they're also going to have 8 different cameras in both Encinitas and Solana Beach to monitor the effects of that project. Next slide, please. So in Solana Beach, where I live, and I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Kristen Brunner, and I thought of this when I got to Solana Beach since I live here. And Jim Jaffe is the other co-lead of this committee, and we both live in Solana Beach. And Solana Beach, unfortunately, has been the nexus of a lot of really ugly fights, and it's been pretty precedent-setting statewide. So that's why we've actually had so much work done in Solana Beach itself. So we did successfully oppose the continued privatization of beach access at the Seascape Shores. That staircase that I showed that's basically falling down, that we won that fight at the Coastal Commission. And then we've also continued to fight all of the seawalls that people love to build in this city. We did keep the one seawall from being built for about 2 years, and eventually the homeowners figured out a way to get the Coastal Commission to approve it. But I think we raised a lot of awareness with the Coastal Commission about the need to talk about managed retreat and long-term planning, and that the seawall situation in Solana Beach is not tenable. And we are currently opposing another coastal bluff development project in Solana Beach that's actually headed to the Coastal Commission next week. So we will see how that goes. Next slide, please. Moving on to Del Mar, there's also a ton of stuff going on in Del Mar. We have been advocating for a long time to move the tracks off the bluffs in Del Mar. This is an old picture of a train falling off the bluffs, but we think this is actually something that is danger for us now, because I don't know if you've ever taken the train, but it runs right along the edge of those bluffs. So we've been working with Sandag to help try and get them to commit to moving the tracks off the bluffs. And then we've also been basically opposing the North Coast Transit District's effort to basically bypass all environmental review for some of their bluff activities, and that is ongoing as well. Moving on to the next slide. This is a especially cool one because this is something that it's a rare, we're not fighting this, we are helping this happen in La Jolla, and that's always nice to get to do something. We are working with Eco San Diego, they're really the leads on this, we're supporting them to open up a long, illegally closed beach access. It's to this gorgeous cove in La Jolla. And this year, we've been working with them for several years on this. This year, they got a $180,000 grant from the Coastal Conservancy that will take them up to the construction portion. So we're actually close to this being a reality. So that's kind of a whirlwind tour of what we've been doing in San Diego County. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Happy to talk more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Amazing work coming out of our Beach Pres Coastal Watchdogs. Okay. Before we get into beach cleanups, I do want to bring in the artist formerly known as the San Diego County Policy Coordinator, Laura Walsh, for a couple policy updates. Hey, Laura.
Did you say the artist?
Yeah, the employee formerly known as? Sorry.
I like that. I like that there's always new good variations on my title. Yeah, it's been such a year. It's really awesome to see all of our committee updates in real time. Because despite my cool title at Surfrider, really my role is to coordinate our committees and help think about all the work that we do as a grassroots organization on an individual level can also take like a top-down approach and how we can think about using policy to really change what our beaches look like and what our coast looks like. So I think Kirsten did a really amazing job recapping our beach preservation work, and I'll let everyone's brains take a break from some of those like really wonky issues that we work on. But I think one really general thing we're trying to do, like thinking about how we change policy from a San Diego level, is doing a lot of work to try to get local coastal program updates for local governments in San Diego. So that involves a lot of work with the regulator who oversees that planning process, which is the California Coastal Commission. Anyone involved in this process knows that the LCP update process has been a really challenging road for the last couple years as cities grapple with planning for sea level rise. These plans are supposed to lay out how planners who maybe before never had to think about climate change and all the trade-offs involved with a shifting coastline now have to think about those things, and how do you do that legally and equitably and in a way that's makes financial sense and all of that. So we're doing a lot of commenting and working with Coastal Commission staff and other folks who are doing reports for the Coastal Commission to try to talk about how all these permits and projects that we talk about in San Diego relate to the bigger picture of just generally getting the region ready for sea level rise. And I think the role we play really well in that context is making sure we have a beach that exists to protect. And that voice is kind of notably absent if we're not there sometimes. So the other big beach pres work that's going on that everyone's going to have to stay tuned for is we're building out a surf monitoring program related to the Coastal Storm Damage Reduction Project, which is a 50-year beach nourishment project in Encinitas and Solana Beach. The chapter's done a ton of amazing historical work to advocate for sea level rise monitoring. My screen just shifted, but hopefully the world can still hear me. But yeah, so we're trying to build out, a science-based framework for supplementing what project managers already have planned to monitor surf resources in the area as they add sand to the beach, because beach nourishment can bury reefs and change sandbars and therefore really affect surfability. And North County is one of the most iconic wave-rich places in the world, and we want to be able to understand baseline conditions in the area and also track the project and be able to influence the project as we find out what's happening when nourishment is when sand is placed on these beaches. And then the other big part of like focusing on some of these big issues like sea level rise and climate change is that we're really starting to connect with a lot of other groups in the region. Anyone who's already working in the nonprofit space or on our EC or anyone who's involved in climate planning in the region knows there's a lot of coalition building going on. So we're part of groups that include, everything from climate action organizations to faith-based and labor organizations, really trying to be part of these like different stakeholder groups that emphasize equity in environmental planning and environmental thoughtfulness. So anyone who's, again, tuned in for a while also knows about our Rewild campaign that San Diego Audubon is leading. We've got a couple coalition-driven campaigns. We're supporting Coastkeeper in stopping a big redundant water pipeline that the County Water Authority is planning that basically is the result of politics and litigation as opposed to a regional need for more water. So we're working on just making our water solutions more efficient and more holistic in the region. And I think the last thing I'll mention is just that we're doing a lot of work also to really influence state processes that drive MPA management. So we have these like amazing marine protected areas in San Diego, and the state is sitting up on a hill up in Sacramento making decisions about how those areas get reviewed for further protections or for certain management opportunities. And so we're kind of trying to drive participation in that process so we can say, hey, like, this is how the MPAs have performed. This is what we like about them. This is what any report needs to say about them. We're always looking for more participation there. If anyone who's a user of the MPA, anywhere from a surfer to a spearfisher or, just a swimmer, hit us up and become part of that process.
Thanks, Laura. Let me get this back right. All right, I'm going to let you go. Big announcement. Laura is no longer our San Diego County Policy Coordinator. She is now the California Policy Manager. So we're so excited to see volunteers become employees and then also move up to bigger and greater roles. So awesome. Congrats, Laura. And we'll see you soon. Okay. What's next? Sorry, I'm losing my tech skills here. Let's do a quick recap of beach cleanups, which I'm going to bring in our new-ish beach cleanup coordinator, Melissa Reyes. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so we're going to start with the days before Melissa, when lockdowns were everywhere and beach cleanups were kind of seeming like a thing of the past. In March of this year, after kind of really juggling and trying to get people into the idea of doing solo beach cleanups, we were able to start the strike teams. This was launched in March while the lockdowns were still in effect. Public group events like a beach cleanup were not allowed in any public spaces in any of the cities. No one would even look at a permit application. And we had so many people that wanted to get out there. So what we did was create this concept of group cleanups that were small enough to kind of sidestep the permitting process and maybe sidestep, police or whoever's enforcing lockdowns, but also still be safe and manageable and adhere to Surfrider's own internal COVID guidelines. So that picture is our chair, Alex. She got the famous hero image of our beach cleanup strike team webpage, which as soon as we started this became our #1 most visited webpage for pretty much the entire time we did the strike team program. Here's a couple photos just showing, SD News covered the first strike clean we ever did at Sunset Cliffs with just 6 people. And then a few months later, you can see another strike team group shot in Solana Beach. Dudes with their shirts off and everything. So beachy. And for the strike teams, I think it really kind of kept our activism, our community engagement going at a time when we couldn't do our normal cleanups. We engaged over 400 volunteers to participate in a strike team cleanup from, the 4 months from March to July. And then so many Surfrider volunteers, many of them first timers, really stepped up and led a strike team cleanup to be a captain. And we had, over 40 strike teams that were conducted by a lot of new time, volunteer leaders. So that was really special to me. I think it brought a lot of meaningful community impact opportunities back to our shores just after so long of not being able to do it. And I'm really just proud of everyone who participated in a strike team cleanup, and especially those who led them. Just really, it made those months that much better for us and that much easier. All right, so going to pass it to you, Melissa, with the resurgence of our beach cleanup program.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, so in terms of our monthly community cleanups, we actually started those back up in July, kicking it off with our morning after cleanup series. We were located in about 6 different locations, and I believe we were able to clean up about 1,400 pounds of trash from our beaches. So that was a really good turnout, a great start to our community cleanups again. Since then, we've been hosting community cleanups twice a month in 3 different locations, every first and third Saturday of the month. So on those first Saturdays of the month, we actually go to Ocean Beach as well as Oceanside. And then on the third Saturday of the month, we are located in Moonlight Beach. And actually starting this December, we're going to start conducting community cleanups again in Imperial Beach. So we have a cleanup coming up this Saturday, December 11th in Imperial Beach. And besides our community cleanups, we were able to have other services as well in terms for cleanups, such as our beach cleanup in a box option, as well as our private cleanups. In the year of 2021, we were able to conduct about 23 beach cleanup in a box opportunities since July of 2021, and also hosted about 15 private cleanups. And we're actually continuing to get requests for both of these in the month of December, and are hoping to get a lot more in the upcoming year. Next slide, please. In terms of impact and the data that we've been able to collect from these cleanups, we were able to host about 150 cleanups this year with about 2,500 volunteers. We were able to remove about 6,000 pounds of trash from San Diego County beaches. And from these cleanups, our volunteers were actually able to catalog about 108,309 items of debris from our shores. That includes about 22,000 cigarette butts, 20,000 plus pieces of single-use plastic foodware and foodware accessories, and about 13,000 pieces of EPS foam. Overall, with the community cleanups that we've been able to host, we've had a really big increase in community engagement and ocean activism, and it's been a really good way to get people back out there in the outdoors after this whole pandemic kept us indoors for a really long time. So community engagement has been really good. And we are actually going to be publishing, hopefully by the end of December or the beginning of January, our beach cleanup calendar for the year of 2022. So I would recommend you stay tuned for that. And that's pretty much all we have for that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melissa. I'll just, I'll make a quick comment that Melissa is also in charge of I think you mentioned, but doing our corporate cleanups. We have a lot of solicitations from local companies that want to do a team building or a private cleanup, and Melissa does all those. And it's just such a huge driver for us. It brings in a lot of revenue that we're able to put back into the community to protect our coast. So thanks so much, Melissa.
Absolutely.
All right. Who's next? I think it's our climate change committee. We're going to bring in the one, the only JP Bruner to talk about climate change committee achievements. Take it away, JP. Thanks for being here.
Sweet. Thanks, Mitch. Go to the next one here. So I'm just going to start with kind of an overview of how climate change is impacting the ocean. So we can jump to the next slide. There we go. So to start, the ocean's absorbing about 93% of the heat that we've put into the atmosphere via trapping greenhouse gases, and then about 25% of the carbon dioxide we've emitted, which is ultimately driving these major changes in the ocean. And because it's sequestered so much carbon, it's starting to lose its ability to store carbon also, which is becoming more of a known and major issue. But because it's stored all of that carbon and heat, one of the major issues is sea level rise. That photo is Imperial Beach on what's called a sunny day flooding. So there's estimates of sea level rise caused by the melting of mostly the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets, but the other half of sea level rise being from just thermal expansion. So water gets bigger as it's warmer, basically. So the estimates of sea level rise by mid-century, anywhere between 1 to 3 feet and potentially up to 10 feet by the end of the century. And if you were at the beach last weekend, you saw the king tides. Tide was up about 7 feet. So it's kind of a view into what things might look like if the ocean, or when the ocean is that much higher. The next picture down there is of Scripps Pier, the highest recorded surface temperature, almost 80 degrees there. And the issue with warmer water being that it holds less oxygen and then becomes stratified. So all the different layers of the ocean stop mixing, which in turn lowers the oxygen levels even more. And when the water is stratified, marine life becomes trapped in what's called oxygen minimum zones. So it's too warm at the top for them, and then there's not enough oxygen up below, so their habitat shrinks. Warm water too, this is an issue here, obviously, but is a major contributor to coral bleaching. And then that final picture there, I'm just trying to show ocean acidification. So that's kind of the effect of the ocean absorbing so much carbon dioxide, which is another really big threat to coral, but also anything with a shell. So you can jump to the next one. So kind of what is our committee involved in to combat this? We get involved really in anything, most anything climate related in our county. It could be transportation, climate action plans, divestment from fossil fuels. Starting to dabble a bit more and more in blue carbon. So talking about how our wetlands can sequester carbon. But and then a big win this year on one of those is divestment. The city of San Diego just to prove that they will stop investing in fossil fuels, which was a pretty big deal. We had about $60 million invested directly in fossil fuel companies. So those will all be pulled, which is great. But our major focus this year has been related to natural gas in our buildings. So this is a major climate impact. You can see this is about 12% of California's total greenhouse gas emissions. It's the largest driver of new carbon emissions. And it's the third largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in our county. Natural gas is basically methane. It comes from practices like fracking. So we know all about those dirty processes downstream, and methane leaks as well. So pretty clear and obvious climate impacts there, but also big impacts to our health too. So we burn about the same amount of natural gas in our buildings in California as we do in power plants, but the pollution from our buildings is about 5 times as much because it's unregulated. That leads 12 million of us to breathe air that would be deemed illegal outside. And, things like asthma is a huge issue from this. I think 40% children who grew up in a home with like a gas stove are 40% more at risk to asthma. So that's a pretty startling statistic. Safety wise, we've seen some catastrophes like up in San Bruno. I think 8 people died in that explosion. Aliso Canyon, all those people who live in that area are still dealing with that leak. There's a great economic benefit to moving away from natural gas too. I'll kind of touch on this later, but essentially if you don't put in a natural gas line to a new newly constructed home, you're saving all that cost up front. And this is also a huge equity issue. You know, people who live in smaller homes with more people are more susceptible to all of those health impacts. And as gas prices rise and we move away from gas, they could potentially bear the brunt of the cost of that as well. So we can move to the next slide. So what's the solution to basically this problem we have with natural gas in our buildings? It's called building electrification. So this pie chart is breaking down where emissions from natural gas in our buildings are coming from. So about half from heating our spaces and water, and then another good chunk from stoves. But I wanted to highlight kind of that these solutions to all of those are here today. Cost mostly in line with what traditional equipment costs, and are about 3 to 5 times more efficient too. So operationally, they're much cheaper. So we have the solutions here today basically to combat all of these issues with natural gas. So I'll jump to my next one, please, Mitch. So where does building electrification stand in our county? Laura alluded to a lot of the coalition work we do in this committee, and we have a specific coalition around building electrification as well. We have, I think, about 20 to 30 different organizations now, and this group's only about a year old, so it's grown very quickly, and we've seen some really positive results quickly too. The first being in Encinitas, which recently passed an ordinance to prohibit natural gas hookups in all newly constructed buildings, and Solana Beach just last night moved to do the same. The city of San Diego has a very strong plan drafted right now to do the same, and is also considering including existing buildings in that, which is very forward thinking. And then some other cities in the county that we're going to be focusing on next, Del Mar, Carlsbad, in the county, all showing promise. But our county is not necessarily a leader in this space. 50 plus cities across the state have already moved forward with some form of ordinance to prohibit natural gas in new construction. And then Title 24, which is our statewide building code, is the new code that has not gone into place yet, but will in the next year or two, is strongly incentivizing electrification of newly constructed buildings, and set electric water heat pump water heaters as the new standard. So that's a pretty big win. So move to the last slide. I guess, what's next here? I mean, of course, continue to push ordinances to kind of stop the bleeding. We shouldn't be, basically building new fossil fuel infrastructure that we know is going to be around for decades to come. But really, the bigger question is, how are we going to convert our existing building stock? It's great, that we're going to not allow new infrastructure to be built. But if you really think about, in cities that have done this, like Encinitas and Solana Beach, there's not a whole lot of new construction. So it's, relatively speaking, it's lower impact compared to kind of the big elephant in the room, which is our existing building. So we don't really have all the answers of how we're going to do this, who's going to pay for it. But it's really exciting to see, the city of San Diego start to think about this, and these conversations starting to happen. So thanks, Mitch. I think that's my last slide.
It is. Thanks so much, JP. Really appreciate the updates. Awesome work you're doing on the climate change front.
All right. Thanks, Mitch, so much. So one of the many hats I get to wear as an executive committee member, and many of our other executive committee members, I get to be a representative from a committee to the executive committee to basically report the needs from our committee to our board and vice versa. So I am here, without further ado, to introduce, last but certainly not least, our Rise Above Plastics Committee, which is the committee that I report to. So you guys, go ahead and take it away.
Well, welcome to the Surfrider Foundation San Diego Chapter's Rise Above Plastics Committee report.
Hi, everyone. I am Janice Jones, and I am a RAP co-lead who works primarily in North County along the 78 corridor.
Hi, I'm Mark O'Connor, and I live in Encinitas, and I have the Mid-County, Encinitas, Solana Beach, and Del Mar.
And my name's Jenny Roberts, and I am the South County lead living out of La Jolla. So we had victories in Vista.
I am so excited about the victory in Vista, not only as a Surfrider volunteer who helped move it forward, but also as a Vista resident. Vista is actually the first inland city in San Diego County to enact a single-use plastic ordinance. And it was championed by Council Member Karina Contreras, who had asked myself and Brady Bradshaw of Oceanside to do a presentation. The presentation was well received by the City Council, and council members directed staff to return with an ordinance, and the ordinance was ultimately adopted with a unanimous vote of council members.
And our next city is Success in San Marcos. Mark, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago at an event in OB. Council member Randy Walton came down to the event. He wanted help in San Marcos with passing a single-use plastic ordinance. So that's when it started. We started talking to council members a little while ago before they had their first read. As you see from this photo, about 150 volunteers showed up in San Marcos, beach cleanup inland. We got about 950 pounds of debris all documented, so the numbers could be shown to the city council. It did go to a first read, speakers from the city and some of our leaders speaking, and it passed. So they now have a single-use plastic ordinance.
And we've had a ton of policy advancements in Oceanside and Escondido. Janice, want to tell us about that?
In Oceanside, in fact, the city council was ready to move forward with an ordinance related to skip the stuff. However, with the passage of state legislation, that was removed from the agenda. They did pass a marine debris reduction resolution, which does include language around measures to reduce plastics, including outreach, education to businesses and to residents as well.
And then we have some more coming attractions for later this year. We have some movement in Carlsbad. City staff will present the draft for a single-use plastics ordinance on December 14th, 2021. And then down here in South County in Chula Vista, a draft has been finalized and was sent to the city attorney for review and will be heard by the Sustainability Commission hopefully soon. One of our biggest RAP overhauls this year has been up in Encinitas. Mark, do you want to tell us a little bit about the policy work going over there?
Sure. So the reason I'm not with you guys tonight is tonight's my first night sitting on the Environmental Commission. I was chosen by the mayor and confirmed as a commissioner for the Environmental Commission in the city of Encinitas. And partly through this balloon program, Tina Overland, who's now a volunteer with Surfrider, is a surfer who was tired of seeing balloon pollution, approached RAP, and we contacted the Environmental Commission. They had staff draft an ordinance, which is by far one of the better ones anywhere. Not only does it address the Mylar power outage and fire danger, but the environment. The ordinance is scheduled to go to council, we believe, January 12th for a first read. If you have not signed the petition that's out there, if you would please Google change.org, balloon ban San Diego County, It'll pop up and you can sign it in January. Besides presenting that data, we're hoping to pack the auditorium. Hopefully in the near future, you will see an action alert asking you to contact the council members to support the balloon ban.
In our Rise Above Plastics, we have a few calls to action. The Carlsbad City Council meeting, single-use plastics ordinance, will be heard on December 14th, 2021 at 3 p.m. on Zoom. The Encinitas City Council meeting, helium-filled balloon ordinance, will be heard at some point January 2022, so stay tuned to see exactly when that date is. The California Plastic Waste Reduction Regulations Initiative will be on the 2022 ballot starting November 8th. And the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act is our federal legislation. Right now, we are in the phase of contacting your representatives. So if everyone could find their representatives and advocate for this federal legislation, that would be amazing.
We have a December beach cleanup in Encinitas at Moonlight, 18th from 9 to 11. We've been working in the last couple of them to try to get people to walk or ride their bikes to the event. And this particular one in December, we're asking people to wear an ugly holiday sweater. I have mine on, and we're going to hopefully have some awards 1 through 3. So if you're local to Encinitas and you ride a bike, we'd love to see you there. Maybe you'll win a prize. Wear your ugly sweater.
So that's our Rise of the Plastics team. Man, I wish they were here tonight so we could thank them in person for all the hard work they do. They work hard to try to reduce plastic in San Diego County. But before I go and sign off of wrap, I really want to underscore next Tuesday, the Carlsbad City Council is meeting to read their plastic reduction ordinance. So if you're listening to this, you can also tune in next Tuesday at 3 o'clock to the Carlsbad City Council meeting. And also, it is still a long time out, a little less than a year. But next year on our California ballot, we will have an opportunity to vote to reduce plastic. And that is absolutely huge. So if you don't hear anything from us between now and next November, I really wanted you to walk away knowing that when you see the California Plastic Waste Reduction ballot initiative on your 2022 November ballot, we need you to vote in favor of reducing plastic. So thanks so much. Mitch, go ahead and take it over. And thank you for being such an awesome MC tonight.
I'm gonna leave you right there, Alex. You're our chair. Let's close this out together. That's it. That's all we got tonight. I'm sorry we went a little bit over an hour, but a lot of great impacts, a lot of amazing accomplishments, and it's really a testament to local activism and what everyday people can accomplish when they work together to protect what they love, which in our case is our ocean, waves, and beaches. We encourage all of you to stay up to date with us. You can check us out on our website, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're even on LinkedIn. We're pretty much everywhere you're going to be. We've taken over the metaverse. We hope that you get involved as a volunteer if you're not already. We hope you become a member or renew. And of course, if you're able to donate as well and support the work that we're doing so that we can remain strong for many years to come.
It is definitely the San Diego chapter for San Diego and by San Diego. So we thank you very much for your attention and memberships.
Yeah, and happy holidays. I don't see any questions, so I think we're just gonna end it smoothly. And I wish everyone a happy holidays and all the best to you and your families. And, we're not taking any time off. Well, we're going to take a little time off for the holidays, but we're going strong until then, and we're going strong in January as well. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Peace out.